Arizona, Kansas, Iowa State, a bunch of electric games. Let's start in chronological order with number 20 ranked team in the country, Clemson Tigers, taking on the Duke Blue Devils. Duke is 11.5-point favorites, and Clemson is a team that's very uninspiring to watch. They play very, very slow. They get in their half-court offense, and they just play really good defensive basketball. They drag teams through the mud. One of the best defensive teams in the country, 16th in defensive rating on KenPom, not the highest offensive rating on KenPom or Torvik. Their best wins are over SMU and Miami, but they just got dominated from start to finish by not Texas Tech. Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness. Who was it? It wasn't Texas Tech. Off to a bad start. Was it NC State? I don't know. Either way, Clemson just got bodied. I think Virginia Tech, they just got bodied on their home floor. Duke is a top 5 team defensively, top 15 offensively. Their only 2 losses came off a UNC buzzer beater, and I think it was a 2-point game at MSG against JT Top and Christian Anderson and Texas Tech, who I think is a very, very underrated team that isn't getting enough national championship hype as a potential contender. I'm really bullish on Texas Tech. So it's like their only 2 losses have been good losses. Not there's any good loss, but if there's a good loss in any sport, there's definitely good losses in college basketball. And Clemson does have some shaky moments this year. They almost lost to West Virginia. They don't have a real dominant statement win. Their toughest out-of-conference matchup, like, I don't know, man. I'm not buying the Clemson hype. They don't have a primary score. Like, their 3 top scorers all average like 12 points, 13 points per game. They do have a lot of size, but they don't have anybody that can get a bucket when they need one. They're an average 3-point shooting team. They don't take a lot of them either. They play really slow, good defense. They don't have the size to match up with Boozer, and I don't mean height. They got a 6'8", 6'9", 6'10", like the height size they match up. But Boozer got 25 pounds on Clemson's biggest guys that play consistent minutes. I like Duke a lot. Kind of to play devil's advocate to myself, Clemson's 3 leading scorers are all post players: R.J. Godfrey Welling, and Nick Davidson. In the 2 games that Duke lost this year, JT Toppin had a very efficient day, and last week against UNC, it was Henry Visar, and I hope I'm saying his name right. I always butcher his name. And Caleb Wilson in the post. That's where a lot of the scoring came from. Clemson's 3 leading scorers are all post players, so that could be something to look out for. However, Godfrey Welling and Nick Davidson, they're not JT Toppin or Caleb Wilson or Henry Visar. So I think Duke covers. I think Duke blows Clemson out of the water, and Clemson doesn't sniff a top 25 ranking for the rest of the year. They will likely be a tournament team, though. Number 9, Kansas at number 5, Iowa State. This is a big weekend and a big week, 2 weeks for Iowa State, because they still have to prove themselves as an elite playoff contender. Or Iowa State still needs to prove themselves as a national championship contender, because their strength of schedule outside of the conference has been a joke. They played Kansas earlier this year and they got blown out. They haven't played Texas Tech in the Big 12. They haven't played Arizona. They haven't played BYU, and this is their first, and they haven't played Houston either. So their conference schedule has been a joke. Their out-of-conference schedule was a joke. 268th non-conference schedule per KenPom in terms of strength of schedule. Big couple of weeks here for Iowa State. I think Kansas is the best team in the country, best starting 5 in the country with Darren Peterson on the floor. I know there's a video going around about how Kansas's offense isn't as efficient. Maybe there's rumors that Melvin Council thinks it's his team, and when Darren Peterson plays, that kind of messes up the chemistry. I don't see it that way at all. I think Kansas loses to BYU without Darren Peterson. BYU almost came back in the second half when Darren Peterson didn't play, and they also lose to Texas Tech without Darren Peterson as well. He hit those clutch threes down the stretch, and they were giving him so much attention defensively between Atwell and Petty. And Atwell, the guard for Texas Tech, Atwell, is incredibly underrated. Christian Anderson didn't play in that game either, which is fair, but still, Kansas would have lost that game. I think they would have lost to BYU without Darren Peterson. They did beat Arizona without Darren Peterson. That's just a testament to how good this team is. They're a better team with Darren Peterson on the floor. I'm not buying into that narrative that they're better without Darren Peterson until we get a little bit more evidence here. But Iowa State, they've had some tough losses in conference as well. They just lost to TCU. They haven't played anybody good in the conference outside of Kansas, and Kansas beat the brakes off them. So I like Kansas in this game a lot, and they are extremely battle-tested compared to an Iowa State team that isn't battle-tested at all. They beat Texas Tech on the road, even though they didn't have Christian Anderson. They beat BYU. They beat the number 1 team in the country without Darren Peterson. They are way more battle-tested than Iowa State. They have the best defensive center in the country in Flo Badunga. I think Trey White, Melvin Council, Darren Peterson are very underrated for their defensive play on the perimeter. And Iowa State relies on the three ball a lot, especially from Milan Momcilovic. I hope I'm saying that right. But that guy shoots the lights out of threes. The most three-pointers made in the country. He's shooting 51% on 7 threes per game. He's the best shooter in the country. Josh Jefferson, Tamin Lipsey, they have good guards. They have good forwards. Iowa State moves the ball really well. They play a lot. It's a pretty brand of basketball. Everyone can shoot the three ball really well. They're very efficient from three. They're top 15 in the country in assists. They get like 18 assists per game. They're a really good basketball team. Kansas is better. Kansas has better shot creators. Kansas has better shot makers. Kansas has better perimeter defense, and they have the best interior defender in the country. And they have the best rim protector in the country in, I'm forgetting his name, Flo Badunga, who just went off. Him and Melvin Council are a really fun 1-2 duo to watch. And all of these guys can get their own shot, or at least get to maybe Council can't get his own shot, but he can get to the bat. Like all these guys can score. DP can score, obviously. Trey White can score. Melvin Council can score. Bryson Tiller can score. Even Fadunga in the post can get to his bag a little bit, right? And Milan Momcilovic, however the fuck you say his name, fantastic three-point shooter. Teams have hunted him defensively this year. Teams have hunted him defensively, and DP, Trey White, Council, they can all dominate iso ball. And if they're seeking him out on the defensive side and he can't get stops, this Kansas team is going to eat them up. I think they're a better defensive team than Iowa State. I think they have a better offensive talent than Iowa State. They played better opposition than Iowa State. I like Kansas plus the 5.5 here. I like Kansas on the money line as well. And Darren Peterson is expected to play. I like Kansas first half to cover the 3.5 or whatever it is on their first half spread as well. They've been a dominant first half team this year. And Darren Peterson likes to sit out in the second half too. So you're guaranteed probably going to get DP if he does play for at least the first half. So might as well take Kansas in the first half. Texas A&M at Vanderbilt. Both of these teams are projected tournament teams. Vanderbilt's the 19th team in the country according to the AP poll. The computers love Vanderbilt. KenPom has them ranked at 13th. Torvik has them ranked at 11th. They're top 10 in offensive efficiency, top 20 in defensive efficiency per Torvik. They don't turn the ball over offensively. They're 20th in effective field goal percentage. They shoot 36% from three. They have two very good guards in Tyler Tanner and Duke Miles with a Jalen Washington down low who's shooting 60% from the field. And they have a few other serviceable big guys that can all shoot the ball besides Jalen Washington. He can't shoot the ball. 7-footer. Dandy also has some pretty impressive wins in a SEC that's been all over the place this year, really. They have wins over Alabama, Auburn, Kentucky, SMU, and UCF. Their only losses are Florida, at Arkansas, at Texas, and then uncharacteristic loss against Oklahoma. A&M has 3 straight losses, and Bama scored 100 on them. Florida and Missouri both scored in the high 80s. Good offense has eaten this Texas A&M team alive. They do have a good offense in their own right. They run, they shoot a lot of threes. I'm curious to see what the total is once the line comes out for this game. There still isn't one at the time I'm recording this. But if Vanderbilt's team total is lower than 90, I'm going to take that. And I like Vanderbilt to cover this spread if it's 8.5. I think Vanderbilt's a really good team. They're a really good team. Kentucky at Florida. The 25th ranked Wildcats take on the 14th ranked Florida Gators. But the Florida's ranking in the AP poll doesn't do them justice. They are the 4th ranked team in KenPom, 4th ranked team in Torvik, 5th ranked team in KenPom. But Kentucky is playing some really good basketball right now. They're second in the SEC. They won 8 of their last 9, including 2 wins against Tennessee, who I think is really coming into their own down the stretch here with Gillespie and Nate Amen. They won on the road against Arkansas. Florida is a real wagon. And I should be betting Florida more, but I have a little bit of PTSD because they fucking sold me against Auburn. Either way. They just have so much size, man. They're the best rebounding team in the country. Number 2 in offensive rebounds. Number 3 in defensive rebounding. Condon, Hawk, Chinleyu, dogs. They've won 9 of their last 10, and they had a gauntlet at a conference schedule, which is why they have more losses, which is why they're not ranked in the top 5 or 6. But they had a 6-point loss to Arizona, 4-point loss to UConn, 1-point loss to Duke. All 3 of those teams are projected top 2 seeds, bro. Like, those are that. As far as good losses go, there's not a team with better losses than Florida. They're a wagon. I think they're going to win this game. I think they're going to cover the spread, which is 11.5. They just have too much size for Kentucky. Kentucky doesn't shoot the 3 a whole lot. And I think a team that can shoot a lot of threes that can just score the ball efficiently on the outside on the perimeter, get their own shot, is going to beat a team like Florida. Teams with good guard play, like UConn, like Arizona. like Duke. I think Cam Boozer also went off in that game either, but that's neither here nor there. Teams that can pass the ball well and can shoot the ball well on the perimeter are going to beat this Florida team because they don't have the 3-point shooting to keep up in a track race. 29% from beyond the arc. Xavier Lee, the transfer from Princeton, who was supposed to be their 3-point shooter, 25% from three, which is the lowest of his college career. And they don't have a closer. They are desperately missing a Walter Clayton who hit clutch shot, clutch three after clutch three the entire March Madness run last year. They're really, really missing a guy like Walter Clayton. They don't have a closer, and that you kind of need a closer to win those big games. And I think that's why they're losing a lot of these close games, at least in their out-of-conference schedule, to teams like UConn, Arizona, and Duke that have closers. Solo Ball, Cameron Boozer, Bryson Burbs, Jaden Bradley. Doesn't matter. These teams have guys that can close. We haven't really seen that out of Hawk or Condon yet. Xavier Lee can't shoot the three. For some reason. They can't shoot the three ball. So I think Florida's a good enough team to make a run. Obviously, I think second weekend for sure, depending unless they have a tricky matchup in the second round. But I don't think they're a team that can go on a long, sustained run against one of the elite teams in the country and beat an elite team in the country or beat multiple elite teams in the country because they don't have a closer. They don't shoot the three well. But damn, do they rebound good, and they're going to take care of this Kentucky team that I think is a little bit inflated in an SEC that, quite frankly, I don't think is very good this year. I don't think it's very good. I think it's I don't think it's the Big 12 is the best conference in college basketball. But like I look at the SEC, Florida and Vanderbilt, in my opinion, best teams in the conference. Tennessee's a good team. Arkansas is a good team. All right, the SEC is good. The SEC is good. I'm crazy. The SEC is pretty good. But it's not what it was last year. And I think that's why I have that mindset. Like, I'm just used to what it was last year, and it's not what it was last year. Either way, I like Florida to cover. I don't think Kentucky is all that quite yet. Otega always a good player. The white kid is a really, really good mid-range shooter. He tore my heart out. I forget who he was playing, but I bet against Kentucky. He had a tough pump fake. Got a guy to get off. Got a guy to jump and then hit a fadeaway like midi. Clutch as fuck. I forget the white kid's name, but he's a dog too. Kentucky's a good team. They don't have the size. They don't have the size to match up with Florida, who's very good defensively. They're going to get a million second chance opportunities in this game. I like Florida a lot to win to cover 11.5. They could go back to back if someone can emerge as a real clutch shooter down the stretch, or if Xavier Lee starts making 10% more of his threes, which at this point in the year isn't looking likely. And Boogie Flan also can't shoot the three either. So they don't have guards that can shoot, and you kind of need guards that can shoot in today's NBA or in today's March Madness. All right. Purdue at Iowa, number 13th ranked Purdue takes on Iowa. I never believe in Purdue. I can't stand Purdue. I never bet on Purdue. This is a tough spot here because I think Purdue's a better team than Iowa. But they just they fuck shit up, man. They really do. They never make shit. It's never easy with Purdue, is it? They were up 67-53 with 3 minutes left against Nebraska. Nebraska goes on a 15-1 run in 3 minutes to force overtime. They almost lost to Memphis. They almost lost to Iowa the first time they were beating them. Braden Smith was incredibly clutch down the road. They lost on the road at UCLA. They lost on the road at Indiana. They got blown out by Iowa State. They lost to Illinois. They lost to Illinois at home. Keaton Wagler had like 40 in that game. They're a team I find myself fading a lot. And Iowa might have the best player on the floor. They could. Bennett Sturts is a dog. I don't expect a lot of defense in this game, but both teams play really, really slow as well, which makes it a very, very tough spot to pick the total here. But I'm going to do it. It's 139.5. Iowa, they smashed this total the first time they played Iowa in games. The last 5 games Iowa had played, they've gone over this total as well. So I like this total to go over 139.5. But both teams very efficient half-court offenses, but 284th and 350th ranked in tempo per Torvik. It's a lot of long possessions, but they usually end in really good looks. The rebounding here is the big difference. Purdue rebounds the ball so much better, both offensively and defensively. They have the size. They should win this game. I can't bet on Purdue. I can't bet on Purdue, even though they have a better team. Fletcher Loyer, Braden Smith, the Zach Edey merchant, the Zach Edey, the Walmart version. Oh, I forget his name. Trey Kaufman-Renn, good player. I love Bennett Sturts, but I can't bet against Purdue in this game because they just have the size, rebound better. But I like the total. 139.5. Give me the over on that. I'm very excited for this game. Texas Tech at Arizona. Arizona is 8.5-point favorites. That is so incredibly disrespectful to Texas Tech, who I think has the 2 best wins in the country. They beat Duke on a neutral floor, and they beat Houston. I think Houston is the best or the top 3-4 team in the country. Duke's only losses came on a buzzer beater against UNC and then they lost to Texas Tech. So I think Texas Tech has 2 of the best wins in the country. You'll be hard pressed to find a team that has more, but a team you could argue has more is Arizona, right? They beat Florida, they beat UConn. They have some incredible wins as well. I just think when people talk about Texas Tech, they don't give their guard play enough credit with Christian Anderson, Atwell, even the freshman Jalen Petty. Like, they have 2 guys that are top 13 in the country in 3-pointers made per game. They have 3 guys that shoot over 40% from 3 in their starting, or 3 guys that shoot over 36% from 3. 2 of them that shoot over 40% from 3 in their starting lineup. And their best player is a forward. Like, Christian Anderson's one of the best point guards in the country. JT Toppin's one of the best big men in the country. And you really saw the impact not having Christian Anderson had on JT Toppin's production, because against Kansas, he had his worst game of the season because Christian Anderson wasn't there to operate the offense. It became very predictable. Also, Kansas has Flo Badunga. But either way, I love Texas Tech. And they have a lot of losses to good teams, too. They do. They lost to Houston, Kansas, UCF, Arkansas, Illinois, and Purdue. 4 of those teams are projected top 3 seeds, and they were all relatively close games. And then UCF, they lost at Orlando. I think UCF's a good team. They're projected to be in the tournament. And Arkansas is a projected 6 seed as well, with one of the best freshmen in the country, Darius Acuff and Calipari. Like, those are good teams they lost today. They don't lose to teams they shouldn't. They beat teams that they should, and they beat teams, and they've beaten some really, really good teams this year. 8.5 is a lot of fucking points, man, against the Arizona team that is really well battle tested. But when they played UConn wasn't at its full strength yet. They just lost to Kansas without Darren Peterson, and I think they have the guard play that can go toe to toe with Burries and I almost said Jaden Daniels and Jaden Bradley. Now, I think the forwards in Arizona are better, Koa-Pete and company, but I mean, is there a better big guy in the country than Flo Badunga right now? Flo Badunga's not on Texas Tech. I'm a fucking idiot. Let me take a water break real quick. Then JT Toppin right now offensively. Cam Boozer, I guess. Also, I hate when people say Cam Boozer's game won't translate. That guy can shoot and pass. That's what you need to be to be an effective modern-day big man. You can shoot the ball and pass, not to mention his post work is crazy. Defensively, I think he'll be a real liability because we saw what Caleb Wilson did to him defensively. But offensively, I hate the narrative that Cam Boozer, he won't translate to the NBA. He's a really good college player. 2 things can be true at once. He is a tremendous college player. He's probably the most dominant college freshman. The way he can fill up the stat sheet, the way he can work in the post, the way he can pass the ball, the way he can shoot the ball. But he's a really good passer. And he can shoot the ball well for a guy his size. I mean, he's 6'10", 250. He's 19 years old. 18-year-old, however old he is. The guy's only going to get better. He's only going to get better shot. Like, he's going to be he has a very, very high ceiling in the NBA. He's going to be just fine. I hate that take that Cam Boozer won't translate to as an NBA big man. Shut up. I can't stand that take. He's a dog. Either way. Let me get back to my notes here. I got really off track here. They have 2 guys, top 50, blah, 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 blah. Arizona should dominate the boards. They're 4th in second chance opportunities, 13th in defensive rebounds. What JT Toppin needs to do, and I think he won't have to do this as much because Christian Anderson will play, but the one game he was really inefficient was against Kansas. Kansas have, obviously, Flo Badunga. I've talked about him at nauseum at this point. Arizona also is top 10 in two-point field goal percentage. So the amount of 2-point field goal percentage that teams allow Teams don't shoot the ball well from inside the arc against Arizona. Wow, that was a mouthful to get out. So if they can contain JT Toppin, and if JT Toppin's shot's not falling, he needs to be a good passer in this game. He needs to not turn the ball over. He has more assists than turnovers. But get the ball into JT Toppin and get Petty, Anderson, Atwell just flying, moving. Backside screen, ball screen. Just get these guys moving all over the place. I'm not a basketball head coach, but that seems like a good strategy to me, man. I don't know. Get these guys moving off the ball and get a bunch of threes and then shoot Arizona out the gym because Texas Tech is one of the best 3-point shooting teams in the country. They have one of the best big men in the country, Big 12 Player of the Year last year, JT Toppin. They're underrated defensive backcourt. They've done good jobs. They did a good job defending Darren Peterson until the last minute 30 of the game. I love Tech to cover this game. I'm not going to bet them on the money line because I think Arizona does have the size to slow down JT Toppin and they can out rebound them, but I think they cover. I think they keep it close. They've kept all that. They haven't really gotten blown out this year. So I like Texas Tech to cover the 8.5. And then one more game we'll talk about. Miami at NC State. Neither of these teams are ranked, but NC State's a projected 8 seed. Miami's a projected 11 seed. These teams are, I wouldn't say they're shoo-ins, but they're likely both going to be playing in March. This is a first round type of matchup we're getting here. Yeah, we're going to talk about it, man. And NC State's a team that I found myself watching a little bit. Quadir Copeland is a fucking dog. He kind of reminds me of Scotty Barnes, just a little bit shorter with his passing ability, his rebounding ability, his ability to get downhill and then just find guys. NC State has like 4 guys shooting above 30% from 3. I have not watched a lot of Miami. I'm going to be honest. I have not watched a lot of Miami. I've definitely watched more NC State, and NC State does have better wins. They beat Clemson on the road, SMU on the road, lost to 1 by Kansas. They don't really have any statement wins, but they don't play down to their competition either. They've taken care of pretty much everybody on their ACC schedule besides Georgia Tech, Virginia, and Louisville, and Virginia and Louisville are 2 good teams. And Louisville just couldn't miss on Tuesday. Literally could not miss on Tuesday when they played. NC State has 4 shooters, or 4 starters shooting over 40% from 3. That's a ridiculous clip. And a lot of that is Copeland getting them the ball as well. But they've dropped, and Miami has dropped some bad games, man. They've dropped some really bad games. They lost to Florida State. They lost to Florida State and Cal both at home. They lost to Clemson on the road. Their out-of-conference schedule was a joke. The only 2 good teams they played in their out-of-conference schedule were BYU and Florida, and they lost those games. And I don't think BYU's all that either. I don't. I like NC State in this game to cover if it's in the 2.5, 3.5 range. If it's like if they're getting 2.5, 3.5 points, Miami might be favored in this game. I have a hard time seeing that. But either way, I like NC State to win this game. If they are anything worse, or if they're anything higher than a 4-point underdog, I won't be taking them. But if they're within 4 points, or anything higher than a 4-point favorite, I won't be taking them. But if they're 3.5, 2.5, 1.5, or if they're underdogs in this game, I will be taking NC State. We will add it to my slip. That'll do it for college basketball. Let's go through real quick, see if there's any other games really that are worth noting. I think I nailed all the main ones. I'm pretty sure there's a game in the SEC that I wanted to really talk about briefly. Let me just see here. Bear with me for a second, folks. Bear with me for a second. Make sure you go like, subscribe, hit that like button, man, if you made it this far. Tennessee LSU should be a blowout. Tennessee should dominate. Arkansas Auburn could be a good game. Auburn's a team that's really pissed me off. I thought they were finally turning a corner against Florida. Not the case. Big 12. What do we have in the Big 12? West Virginia, UCF. UCF's kind of skidded a little bit recently. They got dominated by Houston. They lost to Cincinnati. West Virginia has a chance here if they beat UCF to propel themselves back into bubble conversations. They need a win desperately. That's a game to keep an eye on. Louisville, Baylor. Baylor's been playing some decent ball recently. They hung around against BYU. They have good players. I'm not quite sure what the problem has been for Baylor this year. Louisville, obviously, really good team. What's the dude's name? Is it not Mark Fletcher? That's the Miami running back. What's the freshman's name, bro? He had like 45 the other night. Michael Brown, is that his name? Michael Brown? Hold on, I'm looking it up. Yeah, Michael Brown Jr. went off the other night. Ryan Conlon. They have really good guards in Louisville. That could be a slept-on game there. I'll be interested to see what the line is for that game. TCU, Oklahoma State. TCU had a really big win against Iowa State recently. They're coming off that game, and Oklahoma State beat BYU at home as well. So these are some 2 teams in the Big 12 that don't get enough credit playing for their bubble lives, and that's a big game for them. Whoever wins that game could probably have a real shot at making the NCAA tournament, especially with Oklahoma State getting a win against BYU, TCU getting a win against Iowa State. The Big 12 is not just top-heavy. Like, these teams in the middle of the Big 12 fight, man. They really do. Let's go to the ACC now. Who's Stanford play? I love me some Ibuka, Corey. Stanford's falling off a cliff here a little bit. They play Wake Forest. That should be a win. SMU, Syracuse. SMU should take care of business. Wow, I just spit everywhere. What a disaster. I talk so much that sometimes I forget to swallow. Oh, North Carolina losing Caleb Wilson, bro. That is just brutal. They're such a fun team to watch when he's healthy, man. That is just brutal. And Big Ten's the last major conference we got to get through. Gonzaga, Santa Clara. Santa Clara is a projected tournament team right now. I haven't watched them for a lick, so I'm gonna be excited to watch that game later on at night. Let's see what's going on in the Big Ten. Any games that I missed here? UCLA, Michigan, nothing really. Virginia, Ohio State should be a good game. That's a game I probably should have broken down. Virginia's a good team. They play good defense. DeRitter's a good player. Ohio State has that chode-looking guard that's like 6'2", but gets downhill. Forget his name. Yeah, I like Virginia a lot. Virginia's a good squad. That should be a fun game as well. Damn, I probably should have done a more in-depth breakdown of that game. Not gonna lie. I've not watched a lot of Ohio State. I've watched a little bit of Virginia. They're back. They're back for sure. Let's see if St. Louis plays. St. Louis is a team I found myself tuning into. Same thing with like New Mexico and Utah State are some teams that I found myself tuning into late at night as well. Utah State, I'm pretty sure yeah, they're a real wagon here. Where's what conference? Oh, the A10. Let's see what we got going on in the A10 this Saturday. VCU Richmond, blah blah blah. Nothing really happened. Dude, when's St. Louis play, bro? They play Friday. They play Loyola on Friday. Okay, yeah, I'm not gonna watch that. All right, thank you everybody for hit that follow button, hit that subscribe button, like the video. College basketball preview.